Hello, Courtney. What's up with Moo?
Hello, Sam. How's it going today?
Good. Well,
Good.
while people are joining us, we're excited to have you on today. Cortney
Appreciate that.
Kern is a latte artist, a coffee roaster, and does a bunch of other things. We've invited him to be a guest on our show today. This is What's Up with Moo, our casual conversation with interesting people where we talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Very nice.
So we're excited to have Courtney here with us today. Courtney, you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, other than reading the bio on you.
Hello. I'm Courtney, and I started kind of a side blog. It was called Barista Maniac, and I started doing a lot of coffee related stuff out of home and just grinding and roasting and just kind of bringing that forth. And then I started to get requests online on Twitter from some of my followers to start doing like drawings and lattes. I had a woman that was part of the Aerosmith fan club. She's like, "Can you please do me some daisies and a latte?" And I said, "I don't think I can do that, but let me try." And it took me about 10 times on a very low costing espresso machine. It was like a Cruxel Primo, and I got it at Goodwill, and I made it work. And it was difficult, but once I got finished with it, it was just a sense of like my hairs on my arm standing up. I said, "Oh, maybe I can do this," and I just kept going with it, and I just got better and better with practice. But that's right now I'm a full-time roaster. I roast specialty coffees. I do them much lighter than most people prefer, but a lot more flavor notes out of it, and they smell really good. They have more caffeine as well, so that's kind of a plus, just kind of on the side most people don't know about. But yeah, it's a little bit about me and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, let's step back for a second.
Yeah.
You're obviously doing art. Were you always interested in art as a kid? There's art, and then there's coffee. What brought you to art, and then what brought you to coffee?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually was friends with a lot of people growing up that were artists, and I was like always amazed at some of the work that they were doing. My parents were kind of appreciative of artists as well, like Bev Doolittle. She did like Indian pictures, and like always put like some hidden object that she would do in her paintings, and I thought that was kind of cool. That was like my first introduction, was obviously for my parents, but then when I grew up I started meeting other artists, and I was just blown away by what these people could do. And I said, well, there's so many artists out there that do it on paper. So I said, maybe I can do this in the form of like lattes. And that's kind of where I jumped into that, and where I got my essentially my appreciation for art just kind of blossomed from these other individuals that I saw growing up. So
nice. So you were inspired by artists and took it a different
Yep.
direction. If you're just joining us, you're watching. We're interviewing Cortney Kern today on What's Up with Moo, which is our show we do whenever we feel like it, about on whatever topics we want, with whatever interesting people we want. So, and if you're interested in being a guest, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on as well. Courtney's a latte artist that has done some famous work for the stars. So you're inspired, you're artistic in nature and inspired. What brought you to coffee, and then the leap to doing this as hobby / then turning into sort of profession? That's fascinating.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's Tammy Stronach. She was the Empress in the Neverending Story. She had a following on Twitter, and I reached out to her through a message, and I sent her latte of her in the Neverending Story, and she was like, "Oh my God!"
Oh, cool.
So I said to myself, maybe I should start kind of pushing more to contact these individuals. Maybe they're not doing their own Twitter account. Some are. But as I started to get further, I started actually getting requests from actually people that were in the entertainment industry, and saying, "Oh, hey, can you do this for this series coming up?" Like Danny McBride, he was one of the individuals that contacted me for Vice Principals, which was on HBO. So
Sure.
I did the cast, most of the cast on the lattes, and the cast got involved with the lattes, so it was kind of like a ongoing thing for like almost a month.
Wow.
So Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I got reached out to by Vizio TVs because they were the sponsor, and then a woman, Teresa, who had worked for Disney, and she asked if I could submit some lattes for my Star Wars collection that I do. So I did Captain Phasma, and Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones. She played a Brienne of Tarth. She was Captain Phasma in the movie, but she stood in front of the latte on the red carpets, and I was like, I had it on my laptop, like the premiere, and all of a sudden that little wheel popped up, and she was standing right in front of it, and my computer screen went out, and I was like, oh no. So, because I wasn't there, obviously, but I ended up waiting a few days, and some photos started to pop up on the internet. But this is kind of one of the original shots here. If you can see it, I have the light ring on, but
Yeah.
but
Nice. I'll share some more of those in the comments too.
okay.
So,
Yeah,
are you able, when you work with these stars for premiere or for the shows, do you go to LA? Are you on set? Do you design something and then send it to them? How does this work?
You'll actually kind of chuckle at this. I wish that was the case. They try to keep the spending at a minimal, but Pocky, they make these breaded biscuit sticks that you put in coffee or milk, and they actually flew me out to Newport Beach, California, and I did a latte art shoot in 3D for them for Christmas, and you can find that on the internet as well. It's called Pocky 3D Latte Art. So that was kind of my big kind of paid trip per se. But Coffee Fest, I was involved with them, and I do a lot of etchings at like shops and like latte art throwdowns and events and stuff. So that was kind of fun. And everyone else is doing like the free pours, and I'm kind of sitting there, kind of being comfortable drawing. Everybody's like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing over here?" So, so it just the travel aspect is there, but it's not like as much as you would think it is. So, but I'm part of the Scarlet Entertainment website.
Yeah.
And my last one was in Dubai. They were opening up a new mall, and I've never been to Dubai. And it was during the pandemic too, but they wanted me for 3 days doing consecutive lattes, and it was a little too much in my opinion for what they wanted me to do. And obviously with the pandemic going on, I said no. So
Yeah.
but that would have been a huge thing for me. And as things are getting better now, I'm actually starting to get a little bit more. I just had a model reach out to me from Chicago, and she wanted her portrait done in a latte, so I actually did that for her and got those the photos sent over to her after I completed it. So but that's kind of like the most recent kind of thing that I've done. So
Cool.
yeah.
If you're joining us, you're watching What's Up with Moo, our show where we talk with interesting people doing interesting things with our products. Cortney Kern is a latte artist. You can read his bio in the posting on Facebook or wherever you're watching this, all over the internet universe. We've covered some of his background, how he got into art and latte art, and some of the jobs he's had. You're going to do a demonstration for us. Tell us about what you're going to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you go to some other coffee shops, everybody's now doing the kind of cold foam, cold brew, iced coffee drinks, or cold brew drinks. And I always get feedback or questions like through my direct messaging. Oh, hey, I'm trying to do this at home, and I can't get the foam to stay up top. What am I doing wrong? So I'm actually going to show you just a quick demo, and you guys can start doing this at home with the Kelowna. Obviously the Kelowna organic whipping cream.
There you go.
Which is what you got to use. You don't use whole milk or non-fat or 2%. You got to use the heavy whip, so because it'll form like a harder surface up on top. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, real quick.
Cool.
So
I'll see if I can make you a full screen here too.
Thank you. All right. I'm gonna have my wife give me some ice in the cup. Yeah, so what I did is I roasted a blend of Ethiopia and Colombia coffees, and those actually went into a Journeyman Distillery barrel, which they're from Three Oaks, Michigan.
Wow.
And what happens is when you make this into cold brew, you can't use like the full whiskey coffee from the barrel. It just becomes way too much. So what I did is actually took regular Colombia and Ethiopia coffee that I roasted and blended it with the barrel aged coffee. So I put that in a toddy cold brew maker for 12 hours, and I get this concentrate here, which is in this bottle. So it's actually a barrel aged concentrate, but you put the concentrates and then you fill it up with water to right about here. You want to leave a little bit of room. So I'm going to grab some water. Hold on.
This is so interesting. Like, we have a coffee maker and we have some beans somewhere. And it's like, okay, I've ground the beans. But just talking with Cortney off camera, there's this whole science and all kinds of things that go on. The industry has its own secrets and battles and, fighting and joys. And
okay.
Really
so here's the heavy whipping cream Kelowna, which is the best in my opinion.
Thank you.
So you want to just add about an inch. I'm sure somebody else will be in the house with you, or maybe the kids, and you're going to have to add a little bit more. But for me right now, I'm just going to make one. So this Latte Art tool, it's by Subminimal, and this is called the Nanotech Foamer, and it's $39.99 on Amazon. What this is a higher speed foam tool that you can use, and there's little screens that you can attach at the top here, and that's going to give you micro foam. So that's kind of what I do when I steam for hot lattes with my latte art. So I thought that was really unique, but this is much more powerful. So it's going to get rid of the bubbles when you're blending the dairy product that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this inside here.
Cool.
So it's going pretty fast here. You want to kind of keep it up at the top of the surface a little bit, otherwise it's going to go everywhere. I've done this enough that you can kind of figure it out. It's not that difficult. So
it's a mini blender.
Correct. But this nano foamer is so much better than the ones that you find at Target or Meijer, just on like mostly on Amazon, and you're paying like $9 for those, and they just don't really blend the dairy product all that well to get rid of the bubbles. So, all right, that's it.
Nice.
All right, so now I got the cold brew, and then I added a little bit of water. So now I got the heavy whipping cream. So now I'm going to pour this on top. So you see how it's staying?
Yep.
And it's not falling into the cold brew at all.
Yeah.
So now you can take some really nice photos, obviously, like companies do.
There you go.
That's kind of the secret. And you just kind of drink it like this. And sometimes you could add like vanilla extract to it, or any kind of flavor that you want to the heavy whipping cream before you blend it, and then kind of give it some flavor. But I like mine just kind of creamy for the barrel aged coffee. So cheers. So
if I had some, I would drink it.
Yeah, we should have set you up with the same routine on the other side. So that's a really good tool to use. I've used 3 other ones. I bought one at Target. I bought another one for $10 on Amazon, and it just didn't really froth the milk all that well, in my opinion. So like this, you can see it's still kind of staying up at the top, but it's really delicious, and it just kind of hovers there, and then it'll soon start to drop in. But
interesting. If anybody watching has any questions or comments, feel free to chat with us in the comments on Facebook or wherever else you're watching our chat today. Gosh, so this is the foam. This is the foam's secret. How do you do the art and the pictures on top of it?
Good question. So I steam the milk first, and I get it to a specific temperature, and I pour that into my coffee mug. And everybody always says, is this going to get cold when you start doing the artwork? And it does a little bit, but I always preheat the mug beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And once I finish doing the artwork or the design on top by hand, I actually add the espresso underneath. So I kind of
Ah,
either blend it into the picture or I kind of sneak it underneath, and then I kind of put another layer of white foam on top of it to hide where I kind of poured it. so,
interesting.
so I don't ruin the canvas. So
How do you get the different colors that you do?
absolutely. So you could use just your kind of everyday food coloring for baking.
Mm-hmm.
I found Whole Foods has an organic collection that they do kind of where they change seasonally, and they add different colors for you. So you're not really having to like mix like two or three just to get like one specific color. You can go and get these, and it's about $5 depending what county you live in or where you buy these. But they work out really great. So they do everything seasonally. So like St. Patrick's Day is coming up, or Easter or Christmas, and that's essentially how I get those colors in the lattes. But I also use a little cornstarch as a thickening agent.
Huh.
That way I can kind of brush it into the foam so it doesn't fall into the liquid, like where it gets too heavy and it kind of sinks in. So the lattes and the color, they stay on top for about 10 minutes, I would say, maybe 12,
Mm-hmm.
all depending on how much I've added. But it'll soon, like, obviously fall into the latte because the foam starts to melt away. So
Do you when you're drawing on the foam? I'm using the correct terminology. When you're drawing on the foam, do you make the shapes and then you add the color on top with food color?
yeah, so it's kind of like a sketch artist where they kind of start drawing first, like kind of lightly, and then they start kind of darkening in the lines that they created for the picture that they're doing, or the portrait, or
Yeah.
the logo that they're doing for a sports team. And then once my last step is obviously that is adding the color. So because you have to finish your kind of palette first, and
Right.
then kind of go in from there. So. But I set up like 3 cups in front of me, and I'll like I have like a little needle tool. It's got a wood handle on it. So I'm like using a paper towel just to kind of clean the end and then grab another color. The way the tip is set up, it's got like kind of like it gets wider kind of in the middle and then really needle point at the end. So I can kind of justify like a brush stroke or get more of a coloring added to the top of the latte. So
Have you ever shot any video of actually
I have,
drawing?
absolutely. Yeah. So I did some comic book kind of Marvel. I did the Red Skull. I did him in the latte with the camera above me. I've done a lot of Nightmare Before Christmas ones, and like just kind of Halloween ones that I put the camera tripod over my head.
Opposite of our
I don't.
peaceful house.
Yeah. I don't have a camera crew. I don't have a camera crew, so it gets a little difficult. But I've always had a lot of people say, "Why aren't you doing this more on film?" And because it's kind of a pain in the butt. So, but
Yeah.
yep. So that's kind of where that comes from. But yeah, the food coloring, a lot of people like absolutely love that, and I try to do a lot of coffee latte art pictures just with the cold brew ink that I make myself
Yep.
that I use to kind of address the foam. I just think it looks kind of more natural per se. It's kind of how I feel. Like I feel like the color kind of takes away from the whole concept of the coffee I make and roast, and so. But
A
that's
little
kind
different. So can they, if people would like to see your work, should they go to Scarlet Entertainment? They go there if they want to hire you for sure, right?
That's correct. Yeah, you can go there and you can hire me to do an event. And I actually have about 5 people that kind of look out for me, and they'll talk to this individual and see what they want. And then they'll ask me, like, well, what do you need on their end? And also, I have a website, which is www.baristamaniac.com. And you guys can email me there. And just if you guys have like something you would want done, maybe a portrait of your kids or your wife, or I don't know, so your dog, your family pet, your cat. So stuff like that is kind of coming at me every now and then. Or just somebody actually I had this young lady, her name's Audrey. Back when I started this, she actually flew out to Illinois where I'm living, and she showed up, and I did her daughter in a latte. I drew her and her fiance because they just got engaged. So she gave me
Nice.
she gave me a couple pictures to go from, and the one of them kissing, like their first kiss after the engagement, that's the one I did on the latte. So, and I walked out of the room, and she stood there and kind of like looked at it for a little bit, and she really appreciated that. So I've had quite a few more of those. So those are kind of nice for people. So, so it's like a private viewing per se. So,
yeah. That's really sweet. We've got a couple comments coming in here. John, hi John, I'm Sam. Yep, I'm the guy that emailed you back. How's our food coming to New Jersey Whole Foods or other stores? So our food is shipped to the East Coast via a distributor named Rainforest Distribution. So if you want to get our products in stores up there, what you have to do is talk to your store, whether it's independent co-op or Whole Foods, preferably the dairy manager, could be the regular manager, and tell them that you want Kelowna Supernatural products and they can get them from Rainforest Distribution. We just, it's been the last 6 months, we're just pretty new, started working with this distributor on the East Coast. So we're already pushing out there. We're getting farther in there, farther south. Joe Miller just made a comment down here. He says, good to hear from you, Courtney. I think you mentioned your name that first time, right? He's like, Courtney, he called you a she. Courtney is not a she, he's a he.
That's funny.
Yeah, so
I get that. I'll get that till the day can't consume Kelowna Supernatural anymore. So that's funny.
And so John, I hope that answers your question. Joe's our brand and sales manager, and he's trying real hard to get more of our products in more stores. But fundamentally, it's driven by customer interest in the particular store. And then once you get them there, you got to buy them to keep them there. So we do have, if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, you can get $1 off our food if you want to try it. Let's see who else here. Oh, Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. Kelowna cottage cheese is seriously one of my fave things ever. Only brand I'll eat. We reinvented cottage cheese. It was gross and slimy, and we simplified it down into just a few ingredients like milk and cultures.
And cream top too. So.
Yeah, it's great. Our dairy is different than 99% of the dairy sold on the market for a couple reasons. Like you said, it's grass-fed from pasture-grazed cows on small family farms. So we get it in its most pure state, and then we refuse to mess it up by ultra-high temp pasteurizing or homogenizing. So if you see a cream top, you'll know that the milk has not been homogenized. And if you see batch or vat pasteurized, then you'll know it hasn't been ultra high temp pasteurized. And ultra high temp pasteurized is like 280 degrees. You know, you wouldn't take your organic green beans and heat them to 280 degrees and they're the same. So we're a little
well, you careful there. You might be onto something. So, real quick, Sam,
sure.
on my end for you, Kelowna Supernatural has definitely been my backbone for milk. Mm-hmm. Even when I began Latte Art, and I remember going to Standard Market in Westmont, Illinois, and they had Sassy Cow, they had Dean's Milk, they had Kemp's, they had Kelowna Supernatural, and I remember this experience behind the bar, just tasting all these at the coffee bar, and that one was the best tasting. And now what happens is they were in the half-gallon plastic jug and they were not in the gallon. So I hadn't seen something like that, like so kind of like the way it's designed, almost like a teardrop. And I found it unique because obviously the cream top, and when I would open that, we couldn't get the milk out. So I'm like, well, what do we do? And I remember the young lady that I was training that was next to me, she flipped it over and she hit it too hard on the counter. It just went everywhere. And after that, I didn't do that personally, but just witnessing that, I'm like, oh no, you really got to take care of this milk like it's a baby. So you break up that cream top, but just having that, I've been so forward just telling other individuals, having them try this. What I like to do, Sam, is when I pull my espresso on my espresso machine and I have a guest over, just like maybe somebody over for dinner and they want to have an espresso, I actually set up a flight. So what I'll do is the espresso and then a glass of milk, and then I'll do a free pour latte cappuccino, and I'll put these in like 3 different wine glasses. And that way it's like a deconstructed latte. So you actually taste every ingredient, because you guys make the Kelowna Supernatural milk, and then I roast the coffee, and then I make it on the espresso machine with my water. But it's just a really unique way of kind of showing people like why I'm adding Kelowna to my coffees, and like why I use this dairy product. So well done on that. And so it's just a lot of history, a lot of backbone. It's still out here where I'm at. I've noticed that the kind of footprint of it isn't as much as it used to be, but I can still at least get it at Whole Foods in Wheaton. They don't do the half gallon anymore. They only do the two gallon, or the 1 gallon. I'm sorry. So yeah. So
that's good to know. We're just a little tiny company compared to these multi-billion international conglomerates who are still doing organic milk, but trying to make it shelf stable by ultra high temp pasteurizing it or homogenizing it. They just make more money that way. It lasts longer, and so they make more money. So ours tends to spoil a little faster, which turns into sour milk. Which you can use anything where you use sour cream, and you have the cream top. The cream top can be a little inconvenient for some people, and I just think it's important for people when they experience that to know that that is a sign of goodness, of milk as nature intended to be, as close as you can get to raw milk. Some of our people really like that.
Interesting.
So it's a good way to just be reminded of our values and what we really value.
Sure.
Whole organic, real food, right? Minimally processed, real in season food. Our milk even kind of changes. Some of the flavor kind of changes with the seasons, which if you just want uniformity, processed uniformity, then it isn't for you. But if you want real, it's about as real as you can get. So
interesting. What other flavors do you guys pick up in your milk that like maybe somebody like me or somebody else like wouldn't maybe taste when they're tasting? Like how do you describe like the different milks?
A slight grass taste would probably be one way to. Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's the part of it's not just the taste, it's the whole mouthfeel of it.
Yeah.
We get, and then the smell, the other sensory stuff that kicks in. We get a lot of people from Mexico, Eastern Europe, and India who go, "Oh my gosh, this reminds me of my grandmother when she was cooking in the kitchen, and the milk we had back home." Right? It brings all these kind of memories and sensations back.
Nice.
That you just don't get when the milk's been sterilized and has a kind of a burnt sugary flavor.
Yeah.
Which is ultra high temp. You can kind of tell it if you looked at it, it would appear brown. Part of the reason we've stuck with the clear bottle is because we want people to be able to see the difference.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like with having the milk itself, I noticed that even a little bit past like a couple days on the after day or whatever the expiration day, it still works. And
good still
with the milk, other milks that I use, because I do steam this and add it to latte or make the latte art, to the free pours or just the portraits. Yep. The espresso or the coffee that I'm using, it works so well. It blends well with the milk because of the mineral content, I want to say, in the milk that you guys have. So if you're using an RO system or TDS, which is total dissolved solids and water, so that'd be like mercury, copper, whatever, earthiness, that kind of breaks in. So what happens is when I add that hot element of the milk to espresso, the espresso adds more TDS to your milk and obviously the water I'm using. So we definitely don't want the foam to kind of eat away. And the point that I make is when I use other milks, I can taste that. And the foam just dissipates immediately. Like I threw a what's Alka-Seltzer tablet or something in the it just really, it's like a volcano. It literally eats away. So
this is fascinating. Joe's jumping in here too.
Yeah.
What he says, milk solids and proteins are higher in milk from grass-fed cows. Yeah, that's true. And I think people are experiencing that.
Okay.
Yep. A couple other things too, just for folks watching who are interested in the question. Sprouts Farmers Market in Marlton, New Jersey, or Drescher, PA, is their milk. Yep, we're all over the place. And then Sprouts Farmers Market, we're picking up the cream top cottage cheese and sour cream as well. Yep. So please, if you just say hi, talk to the dairy manager. Thank you for carrying Kelowna Supernatural.
Nice.
Yeah, we sure appreciate that. Well, this has been fascinating. Just real quick, anything you can tell us about coffee roasting? Give us some. What do people not know about coffee roasting? One time, somebody told me they said Starbucks heats their coffee. I'm gonna butcher this, but they heat their coffee at higher temperatures because it will create a higher level of smell, which they then blow out through fans to get people to come in. Whereas so-and-so company doesn't do that because it at lower temperature retains more of the taste.
You didn't say anything wrong there. So it's so one thing I can tell you just to start this conversation, because it's a long one that I'll make very short.
Okay.
When you make coffee like yourself at home, you make that to how you want it. So what happens is they make that whole experience happen because they want to make that happen. On the other hand, with lighter roasted coffee, it actually smells sweeter and it has more of a pastry bread, like a croissant smell. So what happens is the gases are released from the green coffee, which starts off as a seed that's inside of a cherry that's on a plant. It's a coffee plant. It almost looks like a Rainier cherry sometimes, like kind of with that yellow and red color, or it's just red. Well, they pluck the seed out with machines or just by hand. So that little seed is your coffee bean, just one of them. And that in turns, you put that in the roaster after it's been washed on the farm and just kind of dried in the sun or just like raised up on beds. And you as a roaster get this huge bag. It's like 130 pounds sometimes, maybe 117, depending on what region you're buying your coffee beans from. But when you roast this, you will see that some of the beans are smaller. Most people would probably know pea berries as a smaller bean, just from being at Starbucks. That's kind of one of the first companies that made us pay $5 for a cup of coffee, and they kind of featured that. So I respect that totally. But here in Chicago, we have Intelligentsia, we have Metropolis Coffee, we have Gaslight. There's so many better options in my opinion. And then Madcap from Grand Rapids, Michigan, they're my favorite roaster, and they roast it so much lighter, and the smell from that is just, it's invigorating. It's just like, holy cow, it smells like fresh jam, like I just opened up a jam jar, and or some honey sometimes. But it's that smell you can pretty much get with a light roasted coffee. You don't have to do the dark roast. You can, but it's going to create more smoke and it's going to look like the roof is on fire. And what that does is it really dirties the machine, like the roaster, if they're not cleaning that out, and it gets sticky, and that taste goes into it's like seasoning a pan. And I don't like that at all. I'm against that. So I want to keep that drum clean, because every coffee that I get from a different region has the unique flavor properties to it. And I don't want to lose those just because I really I turned the roaster on and went home. That's essentially what I tell people when you get dark coffee. But everybody loves adding the Kelowna Supernatural dairy products to coffee, and that's kind of how I grew up, was always like having coffee with dairy in it. Now I walk into a shop where I help open shops for new business owners, or I train people, and I take them to 3 different locations that I personally like, and each different shop has a reasoning. And the first one is I look at them and say, what do you notice when you walk through the store? And they just said, wow, there's like 40 bottles of syrup on this wall. So what does that tell you? That the coffee is going to be dark, and they're adding a lot of stuff to their coffee, which is to each their own. But yeah, like when you roast coffee lighter, it smells better again, and you get more caffeine actually out of the coffee as well. So
okay.
That's essentially it. So
This just struck me. Do you pair certain coffees with certain breakfast foods?
absolutely, you can definitely do that, because when I taste and cup these coffees that I roast, or I get them from the distributor that I get the beans from, they'll send them to me, and I'll like roast them on a sample roaster, which is it can only do about a half a pound, and then I brew that up, and I just kind of sit there and analyze the flavor notes. Well, you just take those notes from the acidic properties, or maybe none from the coffee, depending on the elevation that they're growing at. The higher elevations are going to have a little bit more acidity, like meaning fruits, and some better notes, in my opinion. Like, and then when you get down to like the 1,000 meters above sea level, like Sumatra coffees, Mexico coffees, some Colombians, those are going to be more earthy, and they're going to have more chocolate flavors to them. So that's kind of essentially what a lot of people like today that I've met. But you just look at that flavor and say, okay, well, this tastes like banana, so we can pair this with peanut butter, or we can do a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or some sort of chocolate bar. So I have a coffee that I create called a Dark Woods blend. So it has a little Ethiopia. It's about 20% Guji, and then the rest is a Colombia Narino that I have. And what happens is, when I roast that, and I do those separately, and I blend them in the bag, because if I roast them together, they're going to roast uneven, because the beans are two different sizes.
Okay, interesting.
So I keep control of that, and I don't want one being darker than the other one. So I get the flavor notes of chocolate, cherry, and caramel. So what I'll do is I'll sit down with the individual, and I'll get 3 pieces. So I'll get the caramel, the chocolate, and a Bing cherry, and we'll taste each one, like one at a time. Sip the coffee, taste that, put that down, take the bite of the caramel, then sip the coffee. What happens is the caramel note disappears that they tasted previous with the cherry in their mouth. So that's kind of what happens.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like palate training per se. And even like when I asked you about the milk, like what else are you tasting in the milk? What happens is there's texture properties that come into play. Just like, oh, well, what kind of texture does this remind you of in the whole milk that you guys have? So is there something else you've had that reminds you of that? So when you bite into a grape, it's got that kind of skin on the outside, but then it's kind of juicy in the middle. What other item have you eaten that reminds you of that? And it kind of makes you think. So that kind of helps you when you're tasting things.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Well, we could go. I'm trying to think about that. I went to a tequila tasting one time, and
there you go.
I learned about different properties. Like, you do that with wine. People do that.
If you do like 5 shots of espresso at a competition with me, you're gonna stand up, look at me. Your face will be numb, and you'll just be smiling all evening. Like, you will not be able to stop smiling, because you're just so lit on caffeine. And these are light roasted coffees too, so it's like, oh no. And you're very
people walking around vigorously.
Yeah, it's like, I need to do this before I jump on this live with Sam, otherwise I'm going to be a Debbie Downer. Funny.
Well, great. This has been a great conversation. It's about 2.5 times longer than most of the ones we have.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share about yourself or your business?
Just not necessarily. It's just a lot of times people may not be able to get different kinds of coffees, maybe where they're living. But if anybody wants to try like a barrel-aged coffee from Journeyman Distillery, which I totally recommend, I have the Featherbone Bourbon barrel-aged. It has a banana flavor to it and some vanilla. And then I also have some honey processed coffees, which actually have a natural cane sugar flavor to them. So they're very sweet. So when you put that in your Keurig or your home brewer, it's actually going to have like a natural sugar flavor that's already in the coffee when you drink it. And it's going to have like a really sticky, juicy flavor to it.
Yeah.
But if somebody would like to try some of this, they can definitely email me.
That'd be great. We've got your website up here.
Thank you.
And I'm the host. I'm the producer. I'm the captioner. So Joe said that he loves Madcap Coffee.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
And it has two other questions here. So, what fat % of milk do you prefer when making a latte?
Good question.
You find different fat levels pair better with different roasts?
Absolutely. So more acidic coffees, higher elevation coffees, you definitely want to use like a lower percentage milk, in my opinion. But that just goes based on flavor and productivity of what I'm doing. Essentially, any milk but non-fat milk is going to work pretty good with different coffees that you're using. You just if you're looking to have a lot of foam on your latte with a specific coffee that you're buying, don't buy like a single origin that's at a higher elevation. I keep trying to stress that because a lot of people don't look at the number on the bag. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I look at. So that's why I'm mentioning it so much, because that really shocked me. Like being a roaster and just kind of figuring that out. It's like, well, I love the more flavorful coffee. So it's like, I tend to not really do milk a lot in the lot, because I do cold brew mostly. That's like my favorite thing. And, but you just kind of go into that. But Madcap Coffee Roasters, they actually have a K-On Mountain Farm coffee. Last I looked about a month ago, it was still on the website. I actually have 3 bags of that here that I can roast. And I roast it lighter than Madcap, so it's going to have a little bit more flavor to it, and it's going to last a little bit longer in the bag as well. So, and anyways, how do you store your coffee, Sam, at home? Do you put it in a container? Do you keep it
here?
What do you do?
Let's see. Okay, so I rip the bag open and I pour it, and then we grind it, put the bag, and then I put it inside a plastic container with a lid that kind of button pushes down and seals.
Oh, it does. Okay, fantastic. So there's a new thing. It's from Fellow. If you go to their website, and it's the same thing you have, but it's much better. And it's a container, and you wiggle it left and right on the lid, and it actually sucks the air out. And then you just leave it. And I'm actually testing a coffee right now because I just got it 3 weeks ago. So now I have a 3-week coffee, and I keep brewing it, and it still tastes the same. So, there's a new coffee business in New Zealand that, like, everyone says, why aren't you opening your own coffee shop? But there's just people have all these great ideas. They actually flash freeze the coffee beans and they put it in a freezer. And when you walk into this establishment, they actually have a full 3 or 4 page menu. And you can actually choose a coffee from like a geisha coffee that will probably cost you like $20 for the cup. But this is roasted 3 years ago. And since it's frozen, they actually weigh out the beans, and that recipe that they created or the roaster did that gave it to that shop, they'll throw it through the grinder on the Mazzer grinder and have that specific number setting for the grind. And then they'll make an espresso of it or a latte, and it still tastes the same.
Wow.
But just somebody's like, why don't you do that here? I'm like, well, what happens if the power goes out? So it's a great way to, it's cost friendly because you save so much money. But what I love now is I do 10-ounce bags and I roast those so people fly through them faster. Yeah. And that way they can come back to me and be like, can I try this one next? Or I really like this one. Or, hey, can you roast this darker so I can kind of see what's going on? I definitely want people to see like what happens when you do lighter roast, but even cost wise, like I have a geisha coffee that was $20 just for 1 pound. And when I roasted that, it tastes like Fruit Loops, like like milk. And just imagine me roasting that dark. I'm like, don't do it. So that's $20 down the hole. So, but they sell a 10-ounce bag of that at some shops, and it's about $50 to $60 just for that roasted coffee. So,
wow,
yeah. So it's like fine wine, I don't know. Do you guys have like a legendary milk from a specific cow that you have on the farm? It's like the golden bottle. It's like, I'm gonna pay $15 for this one. It was standing in the corner all by itself, eating a specific grass. No, so that's just funny. So, anyways,
yeah, that's giving me all kinds of crazy ideas. Yeah, probably shouldn't go there yet. Yeah. gourmet milk straight.
Yeah,
from
we got a hipster cow now.
Yeah, poor cows are gonna be like, just let me go out on the pasture. The herbs you planted amongst the native grasses were good enough. Mode.
That's funny. And now we can get to the part where that's utterly ridiculous. Bum bum. So, anyways, all right. Well, Sam, thank you,
Yeah, thank you.
for everything, and I appreciate this so much. Hopefully, maybe we can do something else another time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope people
Set up something. So
hopefully people learned a lot. This was to me it was fascinating. You know, and if we're not entertaining and informing ourselves, what good is it?
right, exactly. Because when you're the next person that steps in your seat, at least you taught somebody something, and
Yeah.
they'll remember you. That's essentially what you have to do today. You just got to be a wise man and just keep chugging along. So just keep going along and help as many as you can. And like I said before, coffee. Hopefully you'll have coffee like from me, and I give it to you, and you're like, "Oh my God, this tastes so good. What are you doing to this?" But maybe you won't have that experience, but maybe somebody else in your area might have something. Try it. But if you don't like it, you don't like it. But you make what you want to make. So
Yeah.
and
Sure.
this is what I want to make. So
I think it's terrific. I love your passion and your deep knowledge about
thank
what
you.
you're doing. It's really exciting. It's really exciting.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We're glad to have you on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Cortney, for joining us on What's Up with Moo. If you'd like to be a guest and discuss what you're interested in, and we'd be happy to have you as a guest too. So feel free and reach out. Some of the information Cortney talked about, I think there was a lot of stuff. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to. You can respond in the comments on Facebook, Cortney.
Sure.
Or I'll type. You know, we'll jump in and we typically rewatch these, so we'll try to type up the other notes and some of your other recommendations.
Okay.
The
nanofoam.
nanofoam.
Yeah, the nanofoam by sub minimal. I always wanted to say sub minimalist or something else, but I got it right. I kept saying it to myself. So when I got it, I was just like, oh, I'm going to say the wrong thing. But no, it's sub minimal, and it takes 2 AAA batteries, and you just pop that in there. Take those out when you're not using it, obviously, so they don't leak and you got a mess to clean up. But the thing comes right undone. They give you 2 screens inside the box and a holder, actually. So this
Nice.
thing, yeah, it's really easy. You just kind of slide it into this case, and they give you a wall hanger too. So if you just want to put it up on your wall next to your espresso machine or something. And then they also sell a steamy pitcher with a wooden handle. So if you wanted to heat your milk, like your Kelowna whole milk or 2%, you can put it on your stove top or your induction top and heat the milk, and then use this tool. And then the other thing is they provide a cordless, touchless thermometer. So you just hold it up to the milk and it reads the temp. So I would say if you're going to do this at home, try it cold first with the cold brew if you guys make that. But then if you do like lattes at home and you need a more simplistic way, do it to about 140. And if you're doing like dark roast coffee, I would definitely do like a lower temp on your milk. So, yeah, because when you brew dark roast, you definitely want your brewer set at a lower temperature instead of a higher one. Otherwise, it's going to taste even more bitter. So
there you have it. A lot of knowledge, specific instructions, and recommendations. You can do this.
Thank you. Yeah, try and help out. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Cortney. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you.